All right, everybody, a couple easy tricks for hip impingements. I'm not going to say don't do the things you're doing in trying to rehabilitate your hips, trying to rehabilitate a labral tear, a cam impingement, whatever it might be that you've been told you have or you know you have. I'm just saying add these couple simple things. Most people have a foam roller like this. If your legs are long enough, which most people's are, I want you to stand on the outside edges of your foam roller, and you'll notice my toes are kind of off the ground almost. My feet are on the ground, but the toes are lifted, and I'm squeezing inward on the foam roller. The other thing to notice is that I'm going to let my heels go to a externally rotated position. That's not how I'm standing. I'm not standing with my heels in and my toes facing outward. Quite the opposite. I'm hugging the foam roller with the inside edge of my big toe. I'm pushing my toes away from each other. My heels are pushing outward as my toes are squeezing in. And I'm going to practice 5 times pulling my hip joints back and away from my big toe joint. Right there. In this position, when my back is strong and arched, lifted up. So when I say arched, I mean it's not collapsed. It's lifting up, supporting the weight of itself. From there, every time I feel my big toes squeeze, I have this anchoring line, this tension line from the big toe joint up to the groin muscles, to the very base of the pubic symphysis, where the pelvis connects in the center. This is step 1 of a 2-step hip impingement improvement process. The second step is right here, the serratus muscles. As your feet and legs squeeze in, we need the serratus muscles to tighten against the ribs. What that feels like is taking the thumbs away from each other, turning the thumbs away, squeezing the forearms into your rib cage as you press the hands forward until the elbows touch. Try that with me again. Inside edge of the hands is pressing against the rib cage. The toes are squeezing into the foam roller. The head is lifted up, the ribs are big, and we're reaching the hands forward, squeezing the inside edge of the arm against the rib cage to get into that founder hinge position. Let's practice a few more. Squeeze in with the legs, lift the chest and chin, thumbs are away from each other, pinkies are pressing into the rib cage as we reach the arms forward until the elbows touch. The hips naturally pull back as long as you're squeezing those legs together. Come back to center. Lift the head, lift the chest, squeeze the feet, engaging the adductor muscles, turn the hands away from each other in supination, and rub the forearms along the rib cage until the elbows touch in front of you. 2 more. Head up, chest up, push the inner forearms, push the elbows until they touch. Squeeze the feet the whole time you come out of this position. Remember, you're pressing the toes towards each other, pushing the heels away from each other. 1 more time. Lift the chin, pull the back of the skull back. The inside edge of the palms presses to the rib cage to engage that serratus anterior muscle. You're pulling the hip joints back until the elbows touch in front of you. Take a big deep breath. Push the heels apart as you stand tall. Shake your shoulders out. That's step 1. Step 2, take the foam roller, place it in front of you for balance, okay? Lift the chest, lift the chin. We're going to do a standing leg trace, but I don't want you focusing on balance right now. I want you focusing instead on the muscles we're using for the leg trace. Press the hand into the foam roller so it gets a little bit of your weight, but don't fall over. These things are kind of flimsy. The right foot to the left shin. I'm kind of angling my left foot in. I'm angling my right hip across the midline of my body as I trace up. So right here, even my hip's trying to come out. I'm going to push it across my midline as I pull my big toe towards the center of me. Push the knee, pull the big toe. Push the knee, pull the big toe, and finalize that with a lift of the skull. And just lift, lift, lift. Notice I'm aiming towards my opposite shoulder, opposite shoulder. Keep that aim as you come down. Take the foam roller, Switch sides. Very important step. Lift the chest, lift the chin. This time, the left leg is going to wrap to the right. My right foot is planted. It's firm. It's strong. Isn't it nice having a little bit of balance help? Press that left hip, wrapping around the right hip as you trace up. Pull the hip across, lift the knee. The trajectory is like this. This knee is trying to shoot through the opposite shoulder. Lift up, squeeze. Feel all of that anchor line muscle. Feel the iliacus, the psoas, the sartorius muscle. Feel them pulling across the midline as you slowly bring the leg down. So you can do a lot or a little of these. I recommend you do them a little bit each morning and one or two, like a static one, each evening. So if you have very tight hips, don't go right into that 90-90 stuff. Slow down. First, learn to track inward. Track the musculature that pulls you toward center and teach it to actively work at pulling this very important angle. Boom, right there. We need to be able to cross the body. And sometimes what we feel as a hip impingement is just a musculoskeletal screw up. It's just confused. Your glutes are trying to push your knees away from each other as you're trying to do the opposite and internally rotate. And that tug of war, more often than not, it's won by the glutes. So you have to train the ability to take the tissue away from external rotation under muscular control towards internal rotation. The other place that hip impingements tend to come from is oddly enough right here, the thoracolumbar junction, where your thoracic spine and rib cage becomes your lumbar spine and lower back. It doesn't want to be like this. This doesn't allow the hips to move very well. It tightens the big psoas muscle in a very unique way, very aggressively. You have to lengthen this window right here from the lower back, the kind of the top of the lower back, to the bottom of the mid back. That has to grow with every single breath you take. So let's do a basic founder. Big toes touching the ground, small toe pulling away, heel pressing into the ground. The hips move first, the knees unlock a little bit to allow it, and then the elbows and the hip joints move away from each other. Let's use the foam roller again right in front of us, or at the back of a chair, whatever, small person. Press the arms down. Use these muscles, the lats. As you pull your hips back, feel your tendency to press your chest forward, and don't press your chest forward. Instead, push the big toe into the ground, push the heels apart, feel that outer line of the leg engage, and now, like an 8-point plank, pull the rib cage behind you. Pull up and off the hips. And what you're going to notice when you press the heels into the ground and stand up is that you're standing very differently. You're standing with this big, broad thoracic curvature and thoracic width, and that width allows this movement so much more easily because it's not just hip flexion. It's also lumbar extension being maintained while thoracic flexion is allowed. And it's the combination of the hip joints going here and the thoracic spine and rib cage lifting and pulling out of the way that allows supremely healthy hip range of motion. Practice very, very, very often. Practice standing internal leg tracing. Practice the outward anchoring maneuver, and practice that diligent hip hinging, hips pulling back as the elbows draw towards each other, expanding the back of the rib cage a little bit, and just give all of these simple things a practice after you've done the basics of a little bit of internal leg tracing, a little bit of basic founder pose with some help expanding the lats, firing the serratus muscles, and expanding the rib cage. Enjoy it. Keep practicing all the other FT work. And if somehow you're seeing this not on the app, get your ass on the app.